The information provided on this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your qualified health provider with any questions you may have. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. Reliance on any information provided here is solely at your own risk.
Welcome. This is Birth, Baby. Your hosts are Ciarra Morgan and Samantha Kelly. Ciarra is a birth doula, hypnobirthing educator, and pediatric sleep consultant.
Samantha is a birth doula, childbirth educator, and lactation counselor. Join us as we guide you through your options for your pregnancy, birth, and postpartum journey. Thank you to our listeners for your continued support. If you enjoy our content, please be sure to like, follow, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. This helps us gain visibility to other people that could benefit from listening in. Hello, everyone. Today, you get a little bit of a different type of episode. We're just going to chat a little bit about some of the things that we are hearing from parents as they are preparing for postpartum. Parents so often put so much thought into their birth. And it's funny because if you think about it, it's really such a short period of time that they're preparing for. I mean, okay, sure. Like, what is it going to be? Let's say 48 hours, right? Big jump of like how long it could be, right? 48 hours. That's what you're preparing for. And they don't put a whole lot of thought into what they're going to do for postpartum. But we've seen an increase in people actually paying attention to this. And I love that. We're here for that. We encourage that. But we're hearing some nervousness about holding boundaries on visitors, I think is the biggest thing we're hearing lately. Are you hearing that too?
Yeah, 100%. I'm perpetually online. I'm on TikTok all the time, and I see people on TikTok talking about, all these like boundaries that they're trying to put up with their family and how, the mother-in-law stories or in-law stories of people just not respecting their boundaries and trying to come in and talk about, different things that are, that they want to do. Like, oh, I'm just going to come over and hold the baby for a minute, or oh, I'm just gonna, come bring you a meal that you have to assemble and cook for yourself, or I'm gonna, come over and help you out, but I'm also bringing my husband and our children who may or may not be sick from daycare. Like things like that are, you hear about it and you're like, people aren't actually doing that. But then if you look at it in like the individual sense, it for sure is happening. And it may not sound that dramatic, but it is that dramatic.
Yeah. And so we're hearing it more just in life from people online and in conversation. I'm hearing it more at my prenatals for sure with people when I'm talking to them because we always bring up postpartum. And just like we've talked about before with birth, like one of the good things that came from COVID was not a whole lot of people could be in the room and you couldn't wait in the waiting room because I was like, get them out of there. The waiting room is the worst place for people to be because a watched pot doesn't boil. And people feel a lot of pressure to hurry up and have a baby when they know people are waiting for them out there. And so that was kind of nice because it did the job for us. And we didn't have a whole lot of postpartum visitors either. And one of the reasons we don't like people in the birth room is the big disruption in the hormone flow and getting too cerebral about who's in the room with you. And it's very similar postpartum because the more people you have around you, the more you're having to navigate the feelings, emotions, thoughts of other people, advice of other people. And one of the things that we're hearing a lot lately is my family really wants to come. I appreciate that they want to come and they want to visit, but I don't really know how to tell them, even though I love you, I don't want you here right away. And so this is something that is a struggle for people because they don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And it's always taken personally if you say that you're not ready to have visitors. It's like, oh, and maybe in 2 or 3 weeks you can come and visit. And they're like, well, we want to see the tiny little squishy baby. Well, I get it. So what do you see as some of the downsides of having people come too soon, especially when thinking about rest, which is what we want people to be doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is that as moms, as wives, as women, as birthing people, we have a tendency to want to host And even when you logically know I cannot get out of bed right now, it's still going to bring some amount of stress for a lot of us. Maybe not everyone. Maybe there's some magical unicorns out there who know people are coming and you're totally fine with it. I know for me, that was never me. If I knew people were coming, I had a lot of stress over it because I wanted to make sure my house was okay or that, my mother-in-law is coming. She loves tea. I want to make sure some tea is brewed in the fridge for her, different things like that. My grandmother's coming. Let's make sure that the walkway is clear so that she can get through without falling, little things like that. But those little things add stress. And that means I'm getting out of bed. I'm bending down to pick up the toys that my kids have left on the floor in that walkway instead of taking care of my little squishy baby. Or even if I'm telling other people what to do, it's taking me out of that little hormone bubble with my baby, my little postpartum bubble, into the stress bubble of people. So I think that's one aspect of it that can be really damaging. And then I think there's also, other things to think about. Like, you have been through a lot. If people are coming over, you're not resting. Maybe you're putting on a shirt that you didn't have to put on. You're not doing skin to skin time. You're not able to take a nap when you would want to take a nap. Maybe breastfeeding is getting delayed by a little bit, which means you're missing a feeding window, which means you're not emptying your breasts, which could mean that you develop some clogs, which could turn into mastitis, which could turn into you getting really sick. And that's awful and not fun. That's fun fact. That's why mastitis rates rise around the holidays, because so many people do have to delay because they're at families' houses or whatever. So little things like that. And then there's also like germs. These
Yeah.
babies have like no immune system. We're recording this in January. There's so many things going around right now. Norovirus is like floating around everywhere. There's cold and flu and
RSV,
COVID and
whooping
RSV.
cough. I mean, so much.
So many things. And
Yeah.
anyone, even if you've gotten all the vaccines, even if you wash your hands a million times, you can still bring that stuff in. Norovirus, like that stuff can come
Mhm.
in and just take down a household, even if people are being like religious about washing their hands.
And even if the baby doesn't get it, if mom gets it, that is detrimental. You know,
Hmm.
especially if people are flying in, because then we're just in this little hot box of germs on the in the
Yep.
airport, on the airplane. But if we're thinking about it from the perspective of, let's say there's a mom or a mother-in-law or a sister, sister-in-law, whatever, listening, that maybe was sent this episode by somebody who's about to have a baby because they wanted them to kind of understand the reason that maybe they didn't want someone to come and visit right away. Your intention for coming to visit could be the purest. The I want to serve you. I'm basically going to be a postpartum doula. Like I will just do whatever you need me to do. That is all so wonderful and lovely. There are some people that even still it stresses them out. Even if they love you so much, it stresses them out to have another person in the house. And if we think
Hmm.
about a growing family, especially if it's the first baby, I'm just going to use the mom and dad example, although we know there are a lot of other dynamics of families. Mom has never been a new mom and she's never been partner to a new dad. Dad has never been dad and he's never been partner to a new mom. And they're both trying to learn how to parent this baby and love each other through the process. And there's a lot of ups and downs, and it's a roller coaster, and there's a lot of hormones and emotions going around. And if someone else is brought into that space, let's say you're coming to stay, or even if you're coming to an Airbnb, but you're coming to the house for a few hours a day or whatever, it's another person to integrate into that. And even if you're saying, I'm coming in with no judgment, I'm coming in with no expectation, I'm just going to help, that can be true. And the person receiving that help could still inadvertently feel like it gives them anxiety and it gives them stress. And
Yeah.
you might not even realize it, but you're going to give some sort of advice when you're coming to visit. It might not even be intended that way, but it's going to come off that way that you're giving some sort of advice. And even those little bits of outside information can a little bit derail how the mom and dad or whoever were going to do things. And now they have a
Yeah.
new idea in their mind. And it kind of pulls away from them being able to find their own path in those first few
Hmm.
weeks. And although it could be a helpful suggestion, it also makes them doubt themselves a little bit. And so I think the best thing really is just having the parents and the baby, at least for those first couple of weeks, to find their way and navigate it and be able to nap whenever they want and not have to think about somebody else being in the house, or being able to breastfeed. Like we did that one episode, boobing out loud, being able to like
Yes.
breastfeed anywhere in your house and not have to think about it. Even if they're saying, I don't mind. Some people are a little bit shy still anyway, or a baby, turns their head because they're hearing a noise from somewhere, and it's distracting for the baby, and mom's overwhelmed and stressed because breastfeeding can be hard. So please know, if you're listening to this and you're the person who really wants to come and visit, but you're not being well received, please don't take it personally. It really is
Mhm.
just that person can't handle it at that time. And it can be just a total hormone and emotion situation. And if they have a postpartum doula, you might be like, well, why is it okay for them to have a postpartum doula, but not their mom? Right. And a postpartum doula doesn't get their feelings hurt if you don't take their advice. They're like, you
Yeah.
paid me, you didn't take my advice, that's on you. But it is hard as grandma if you mention how to do something and you have a really cool trick for how to do something and they don't do it. It's hard to not take that personally.
It is. It is hard. And I think there's also, um, there we have to take the partner into account here too. If dad is feeling like they're stressed over people coming in and out, or, even if you get along super well with your son-in-law, but he has this little feeling of, well, I don't know, what if she doesn't think I'm doing it right? It's also his postpartum period. He's also getting to know his baby and learning how to take care of his partner so that they can take care of their baby together really well. So, I think we really want to allow that dyad, that triad, to be able to work together and figure out how they're going to do things before we start bringing in a lot of people. So, thinking of other creative ways that you can love on your family from afar. We had another episode about this with Sabrina back in the fall, talking about the village and what the
Village, yeah.
village can look like. So, think about sending, dropping off Starbucks at the door, or sending a fully prepared meal ready that's
No
hot and
HelloFresh.
for them. Yeah, no HelloFresh, please. It's not a help.
Already made meals.
Yes. Think about some of those things, maybe have a laundry service that you can just like, they can put their laundry outside their door. You can pick it up, you can fold it for them, and you can deliver it back. So get creative, figure out how you can love on them in the way that they need to be loved on. And let's focus on that trio rather than our own feelings, even though it's hard.
Yeah, and another thing that might not, you never know what trauma someone's bringing into a situation. And some people don't realize, some people have a baby and then all of a sudden their subconscious is hit with some trauma responses, even if they don't realize where it's coming from. So if you're the mother-in-law who's wanting to come and visit, you may not realize that deep down, something you don't know about is there's a struggle relationship between her and her mom. And you
Mhm.
coming is lovely and wonderful, but reminds her how unsupportive her own mother is. And even though you should feel like, you could be like, well, but focus on the good. Like, I'm here to help. We're undoing that. Well, it's not. It actually just illuminates the fact that she isn't getting the support that she needs from the other side.
Yeah.
Or maybe there was a loss in the family or whatever. So there's a lot of background things that you might not realize are impacting that person's ability to receive help and visits, that can make a big difference behind the scenes.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. So if you're a parent listening to this and you're trying to figure out how to communicate with your family, I think hopefully we've given you some tips here. And if your family listening to this, because this is how they've chosen to communicate those boundaries with you, then know that you're loved. We appreciate you taking the time to listen to this episode and learn. And get creative in how you can love on your family, and soon enough you will be squeezing the little baby cheeks.
that's right. Squeeze those baby cheeks. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for joining us on Birth, Baby. Thanks again to Longing for Orpheus for our music. You can look him up on Spotify. Remember to leave a review, share, and follow wherever you get your podcasts. See you next week.